There's these other pigeons. Pigeons voiced by Awkwafina.
Whoa, is it like an allegory for racism or something?
No, it's just a pigeon.
Oh. Hello, and welcome to HAZMAT, the only show that went to the cinema and ordered a green slushie, which just sort of made them panic.
Because they don't know how to do that.
There's no green one.
They don't know how to do that.
They said it's blue or red, and I was like, can I have the green one, please? I just said it calmly.
They said they started freaking out.
They were freaking out, and I was just there.
Fired,
I kept my cool.
The fire started almost immediately.
Yeah, it really did. Several people were taken to hospital, and it was a mess, but...
Maybe when Shrek came out.
That's where I remember the green slushie from. I'm Matt.
And I'm Harry.
And this is the monthly thing, the part of the show where we talk about every new film we saw this month, what we thought about it, and whether we'd recommend them. Well, yeah, last episode was our first one, so we had like a big old thing here about how we're not going to do ratings anymore, we're going to just recommend. So that's how it's going to work. We're going to say whether we recommend these films up top, and then we're going to talk about them a little bit. We might get into some spoilery territory, so you've been warned.
You've been warned, don't come back.
First up on the list, The Iron Claw. There it is.
Like this.
There it is, folks.
You do this.
The Iron Claw himself. What do you think of Iron Claw?
Oh, loved it.
Loved it.
Loved it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been too long since I had a good wrestling movie. I think I've seen maybe 3 in total, including this one.
Okay. You need to get up your numbers, rookie numbers.
Rookie numbers.
I've
That's not my fault, though. That's Hollywood's fault.
It's Hollywood's fault for not doing as many.
Doing it good.
Yeah.
For not doing it good.
I've seen one wrestling movie, and this was it.
And this was it. This was
Yeah.
the one.
Yeah, this was cool. This was interesting because obviously you're into wrestling and you know kind of more about the history and the lore of it, I guess. I don't really know much about that, but I thought this was just an incredible film. I really felt it from the emotional side of things and the story about... It's a story about family and connection, I suppose, more than anything.
Which is, I think it's always an interesting thing to explore when you're tackling the subject of wrestling, because it would be very easy just to kind of explore what wrestling is, because it's so intricate and so bizarre and so unique in itself. But the 3 good movies, the good wrestling movies I've seen, have all kind of had that family dynamic to them.
Yeah, like it's more interesting to do it about the people and the characters than kind of the thing itself, because you see like so much of that in itself anyway.
Yeah,
Funnily enough, you see the wrestling in wrestling.
You see the wrestling in wrestling.
So you can see that in wrestling.
So just, if you wanted wrestling, just watch wrestling.
Watch the wrestling. Excellent performance from everybody involved here. My boy Jeremy Allen White, kind of the main reason I went to see this.
Yeah, your boy Jeremy Allen White, my boy Lily James.
Zac Efron and Lily James, they were in High School Musical together, weren't they? So nice to have a little reunion there. It's really iconic pairing.
You can't just make
things up. It was crazy to make them have that romance again.
I think it's actually illegal. I think you can actually get arrested.
All these years, all those High School Musical fans.
I think lying on the internet,
we were like, oh my god, Troy and Gabriella are back together again.
And you can't do that no more. I like that Ric Flair was in it. That was one of the coolest aspects to me, was seeing like these notable figures that you recognize. You know, you had your Harley Race, your Ric Flair, the Fabulous Freebirds. They all get an interpretation, like an appearance on screen. Obviously, the Von Erichs themselves.
Yeah.
Crazy that's like an actual true story.
Yeah, that's what like got me as well. And it's not even all of it. They kind of took out one of the brothers apparently and sort of morphed them into one person.
Yeah,
sort of
two brothers
kind of
were
represented
almost kind of...
that, because I think the director said it's just too much.
It would have been too much. But I think especially within the past couple of months or so, it's been really apt because this is a movie that's all about, like you said, it's not just family, but it's the aspect of like toxic masculinity and how wrestling in itself has kind of driven this father figure to push his sons basically to breaking point in order for them to succeed. And it really highlights, with some of the older school guys, that was kind of the norm, was you were expected to man up, you were expected to take it all on the chin. And especially like with the past couple of months or so, just what a kind of toxic environment that the world of wrestling actually is. Obviously all the stuff about Vince McMahon's come out in like past weeks, and is still coming out. There are still more and more allegations coming out about him. It is one of those things. It's gotten a lot better in recent years. Modern wrestling is so much better for the workers than it was back then. Still a lot of issues with it.
Yeah.
especially in terms of like how they're contracted and like their healthcare and everything.
Mm.
But I think stuff like this, where it's a mainstream production, where it does shine a light on some of the issues that are present,
Yeah.
then
And like shows that to people like me who only know wrestling on the surface and
Yeah.
kind of what I've seen in clips of it. I don't know how much like stuff there is going on.
you would
like
know any of the behind the scenes
Exactly,
stuff.
yeah.
You just know
So
there's
this
The
kinda-
Rock and Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, exactly. That's why this was such a crazy true story. That it was a true story to me, because it's the kind of thing you feel like you would have heard about. I feel like I should have heard about that or knew about that, but yeah, I was just astounded every time because I had no idea, like, going into it, really what it was about. I understood there was some tragedy, and they mentioned like the curse of the family name and stuff at the start, but like every single new thing that happened, I was like, oh my god, another one.
I think it's because there was kind of like a middle point where wrestling was at its peak. So I'd say modern wrestling, even though I think it's better, it's become more of a niche thing again.
Right, yeah.
And obviously back in the 60s and 70s, when this movie takes place, it wasn't really like a properly televised thing, as in
It
like
was sort of like local networks and things.
they had it, but only big show. They didn't really have like proper like weekly shows that they have now.
Yeah.
And obviously once it hit kind of like 80s 90s, that's the golden era, you know, when Hulk Hogan comes in and like wrestling is now like a household thing. Everyone watches it, everyone knows what it is.
People were growing handlebar mustaches.
Bleaching their hair,
Yeah.
shaving the top bit off.
Why do you think I've bleached mine? I'm such a big Hulk Hogan fan.
Yeah, you haven't got the full way. You need to shave the top
Yeah,
of
I need
it,
to
and
shave
just
the
have
top.
it round the back and side.
I can't tell you how disappointed I was when I watched The Incredible Hulk and it was about like a green guy. I don't know.
It's just a big green man and not some big
I was like,
tan
who's
man.
this?
Final thoughts. Easy recommendation.
Easy recommend.
I'd
Yeah,
say that was my favorite thing from this month.
your movie of the month.
Yeah.
Moving on to a not so great movie.
From one great movie to another.
One classic to another. It's none other than Madam Web.
Perhaps the most talked about movie, at least.
Probably, yeah, absolutely. The most talked about of the month, the year so
Not
far, maybe.
necessarily in a positive light, but
no,
people
no.
are talking about it.
No. Where do we begin? I mean, not recommend, obviously.
I mean, where does this movie begin?
The
Do you remember how the movie started?
first
'Cause I
shot
don't.
is not even Dakota Johnson. Imagine that's my problem with
It's
it.
not.
The first shot wasn't even Dakota Johnson.
Oh, wait, yeah, it's them, it's them in the Amazon or
It's
whatever.
the Amazon, yeah. We get the weird, like, bad actor villain guy. He's not a villain at that point, but he's still doing some very bad acting.
We don't mean bad actor as in like he did something cancelable like in
Oh,
real life.
no,
We
no,
just mean that his acting was not good.
Not good. How did he get
Wouldn't.
cast? How did he get cast? I don't think it was even him saying half the lines. There was points in this film where it would close up on his face and his mouth was not moving.
It wasn't just him. I'm pretty sure there was a shot where Dakota Johnson herself was.
Oh, I didn't even
saying,
know it was
like,
that.
It was just a shot of them like walking through. Well, it was her and the leader of the weird spider tribe.
Oh, yeah.
Walking through the rainforest, and they were saying lines, but she was not. Her mouth wasn't moving.
Yeah.
There's no way.
And he wasn't too great either, that weird leader guy.
I don't think anyone in this movie.
There was not
particularly
really
good.
any good performances, I suppose. Like, I don't know if they were just doing the best with what they had, or the editing didn't do any favors, the script didn't do any favors. Also, this just feels like a film that has been like changed and added to and re-edited over and over again until it's like just an incoherent mess. I don't know if at some point it had some kind of structure to it, but it does feel like there's just a load of like men in suits. They kept just adding stuff, and that's why there's so many overdubbed lines.
I mean,
and, like,
adding
weird
stuff
shots.
makes sense because some of the lines just trail on for way too long.
Yeah,
You'll have like a line of dialogue that is twice as long as it needs to be. You get all the key information in like 4 words, and then they just keep talking.
keep going. It's the same with as the other Sony ones. We've talked about that in our commentaries for those, but you just don't care about anything that happens in it. They did like Uncle Ben, and I love Adam Scott, of course.
Yeah.
But even that was like,
He barely gets any screen
yeah,
time.
even when he's on screen though, I'm not even like, well, hey, it's Uncle
Yay,
Ben.
woo.
It's just like, oh right, they're doing Uncle Ben. Okay, all right, cool.
I think at best you can say the 3 actors who played the future spider people
Yeah.
did a serviceable job.
Maybe the best part about the film was the dynamic between the central four: Dakota Johnson,
Yeah.
Madam Web herself, and the three Spider Women. I thought like those scenes were the most charming, I guess, just the kind of conflict between them, and then they slowly bond with each other. But even that was like bare minimum storytelling. Like
bare bones.
that's obviously going to happen. There's no sort of twist or turns. Like it's just nothing. It's nothing.
I think, to its credit, for once, they didn't make a villain and then try to make us root for the villain.
That's a good point.
Madam Web was
Hero.
easily identifiable as a good guy from the off.
Yeah. I mean, paramedic, like, immediately, and the villain guy is just, like, a piece of shit from the start.
He has, like, no motive, though.
The only motive is
other
this
than,
weird...
like, self-preservation.
Vision he's had, where it's like, these people are out to kill me, so I've got to kill them first. Oh, turns out they're teenage girls. Oh, well. Doesn't matter.
Who cares? They're probably going to kill me in the future.
I don't know. It was like not even Hallmark level acting. It was just sorry to go on about him as a bad actor. Just bad, dude. Go back to school.
Put some effort in.
Yeah.
Put some effort in. Everyone.
I couldn't get over it. Every time he was speaking, I was like, this sounds like AI or something.
I'm not.
I would not be surprised if they'd fed his voice into an AI and just spat out lines so they didn't have to get him back and pay him more.
I'm almost surprised that like every shot wasn't them glancing off camera to look at the script as they were just reading lines.
It's that kind of vibe in it. It's that no one in it wanted to be there. I think a lot of them thought it was a Marvel MCU film, judging by a lot of the press junkets that have been happening.
Which is very funny.
Yeah.
It just seems whenever Sony releases one of these movies, something just very funny happens around it, and then the movie comes out and it's just like, it's like
more about the press than the actual film itself. Also, a lot of the marketing was centered around the Spider Women, which we literally only see
about 3 seconds worth of,
in the flash forward, and then at the end
they get like a brief,
I guess,
like shot of them. I mean, as bad as this movie is, I think it was the most watchable one that they've done.
Of the Sony ones, I had the most fun watching it. We did 2 Venoms and a Morbius, and we were bored shitless. This one, I was entertained. Purely because it was funny bad. The other ones like aren't even that. They're just like boring and wallpaper. This one was at least funny bad.
I mean, like there's almost things that they've put in to be serious, but come off as like running gags.
Yeah.
Like the fact that like this bad guy shows up and she just keeps running him over.
Yeah. Just smashing him with the car all the time. It's like all she could do. It's a weird sort of her power is a weird thing in that she can see the future, but she's got no other powers to protect herself or anything. I feel like there should have been some more creative ideas on how they're avoiding the guy, but it was just kind of like, run him over and then run away every time.
It was just over
and over and over again. There was no sort of variation between that. It was just like they run away, he catches up a bit. They run away, catches up, and then the final battle, and that was like, and it was over.
Did it big Pepsi advert?
Oh yeah, Pepsi. Buy Pepsi, drink
Pepsi.
Pepsi. I suddenly really wanted a Pepsi after this film. I don't know why.
Something about that movie just really got me in the mood for a Pepsi. Should have called it Pepsi Web.
Pepsi Web.
Madam Pep.
I mean, what more is there to say other than
it sucks?
Bad.
Put it in the bin.
Yeah, I mean, we're not really saying anything no one else has said, but try again.
Try again, Sony.
Let's move swiftly on.
Is that a hint?
Yes, I'm about to talk about the Eras Tour.
The Eras Tour movie that made like $1 billion.
We finally watched it.
We finally did it. No, we didn't.
We didn't.
Should have, but we didn't.
Next up, American Fiction.
What? We didn't see that.
Oh, sorry, we saw American Fact.
Oh, yeah, of course we did.
Absolutely straight up recommend here.
Oh, yeah, like
absolutely
easy. I think you've said it before in another video, but there's definitely like a return of the comedy film.
Just a straight up comedy film. A lot of comedy in films has just been in other genres and they've just been funny and ironic and a bit self-aware. We've talked about like the Marvel effect and like quips and things happening in other films, but I feel like it got rare for a while to just have a comedy film, and that seems to be coming back with things like Bottoms, Theatre Camp, and American Fiction. Comedy was sort of relegated to TV for a while, but we seem to be making a return.
Which
is good. It's my favourite genre, probably.
I think it was probably the film I had the most fun with.
Yeah, it was just funny. It was just everyone in the cinema was just laughing the whole time. It was like there was so many laugh out loud moments in this as well, and I just had a lot of fun.
Yeah, like between this and last month I watched Next Goal Wins, those are probably the 2 big comedies I've seen so far this year.
Yeah.
I think this is the funnier one.
Nice.
I think this is the funnier of the 2, and I love how it just kind of ends with no resolution almost.
It ends with a bit of a meta sort of twist, which I think is great because it is about a writer
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I always love films that kind of do that, where they sort of become about the writing itself, because the character is so aware of like plot structure and stuff.
Especially like with what kind of is happening and what the movie's about, because obviously it's this movie about a struggling author who's never written anything, and he's basically told by his book publisher, you need to write a black novel. You need like that's what people want. And he like takes the piss with it and just writes it as like stereotypically as possible, and everyone like eats it up. They talk about it a lot and how they've kind of got this element of tokenism. It's almost like people want to kind of identify with an issue and say that they support it. They don't actually want to do anything to change
it's
it.
performative. Yeah, you'll share a link or
you change your profile picture.
Change your profile picture, but
I
you're not
support
really
the current
doing anything.
thing. Yeah.
And it definitely had a lot of points to make about that.
But yeah, definitely really, really good.
Yeah, I thought the comedic
Easy
performances were really good. Everyone was just great.
Great
It's one of
movie.
those, it's just flat out great. Like
Everything about
there's not
it's great,
so much to say about it. It was just a really fun time.
One, if I had to nitpick something,
I didn't like the title of his book.
well, I didn't like the title of the film.
Oh.
I think it should have been called Fuck.
Fuck.
Fuck. Why would it be called Fuck?
Fuck.
Call it Fuck.
We should mention our boy Keith David was in it.
Yeah, he's definitely someone like I always enjoy when he shows up, but he never like gets a big role. He
No,
never
it's
gets
just like
big
a-
role. It's a little there he
A
is.
little more than a cameo.
There he is. Oh, he's gone.
Yeah, he's gone. Next up, Argyle.
Not to be confused with Argo. That's
No,
a different
different film
with
with Ben Affleck.
which is not to be confused with Igo, which is a model of car.
That's a Toyota. We're not sponsored. I'm kind of conflicted as to whether this is a recommend or not for me.
I think it's one of those ones, like a couple of them I said last time around. It's not a recommendation, but not in the sense that it's bad. It's
Yeah.
just that it's not good enough to warrant like a you should definitely see
Yeah, I'm not
this.
going out of my way to tell people to see this.
Yeah.
We watched it and it sort of has left my mind ever since. Yeah, the latest from Matthew Vaughn, who I've liked quite a lot of his stuff. We watched Kingsman recently. I'm a big Kick-Ass fan. This sort of had the Vaughnisms, I guess.
It's still like a really fun, well choreographed.
Yeah, there was some good visual
adventure,
sequences,
action
fun
kind of thing.
Yeah, fun set pieces, and I don't know if it just felt a bit uninspired or a bit bland compared to some of his
very
past
Hollywood.
stuff.
It's
Yeah.
very, like you look at that cast and you're like, yeah, that's very Hollywood.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because we just watched Kingsman, which is an action espionage movie, and
Yeah.
then this comes out and it's an action espionage movie.
Yeah, because it felt like the same lane, but not as good, and I think that worked to his detriment.
If they had not done what they did with the character, like partway through, I would have been way more into it. I think.
Yeah, you'd rather like just kept it as she was presented.
As she was like from the start, she was just like an author who was kind of dragged into this whole thing. Because that's what's so kind of endearing about the Kingsman movies is Eggsy's not like the prototypical spy.
Yeah, he's not
made for that world.
Yeah, he wasn't raised in the life,
and he has to kind of learn how to do it.
We're thrown into it thinking that's the case, and then it isn't.
They're like, let's do a creative twist, but it makes things worse, I think.
Yeah. Little nitpick here. Their song as a couple was Now and Then by the Beatles. That song was released November 2023. They hadn't been together at that point for 5 years. How'd they know that song?
Because
when they were together?
I told you this.
How'd they
the
know that
film
song was together?
Argyle is set 5 years in the future.
No, it can't be. It can't be.
You don't know that.
Matthew Vaughn, care to comment?
Hey, yeah, this is director Matthew Vaughn. It's set 5 years in the future. He's right.
Oh, wow. Okay. Fair enough.
Can you, get like a picture of Matthew Vaughn on screen and do the thing where like the mouth comes like that, like a puppet.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. That's too much work. I'm just going to put a picture of him there.
So you're going to put a PNG with a speech bubble and like make the words appear.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really my only specific. That just took me right out of it. I was like, no, it's not. You did not know what song you were going to pick when you wrote those lines. Whereas I feel like it's a big thing of his films that the songs are so well picked. Like the soundtrack is such a big element of the film, like the pop songs and stuff. So I don't know. I just thought he would have put a bit more thought into that. But it was clearly just like, I don't know, some deal with the Beatles or something to put that in there.
I don't know. I feel like the soundtrack wasn't as good as the Kingsman.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's like he's been better at that in the past. It didn't really stand out hear as much, really.
There's the Leona Lewis song.
Yeah, yeah. To be fair, I did like that sequence when they were coming out with the colourful smoke and stuff. That was quite fun.
My biggest nitpick, you really like Dua Lipa. I really like John Cena. They both really only appear for the first 5 minutes of the movie and then they're gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even after featuring so quite heavily in the trailer.
Turns out the trailer was all their scenes.
Yeah, the whole trailer was the intro of this movie.
Yeah. Dua Lipa deserves better, and I can't wait to see her in a leading role.
I mean, she's racking them up.
She deserves better.
Barbie.
She deserves better. Yeah. Middle of the road sort of deal.
Mid.
Mid.
Did you call him Mid-Few Vaughn?
Got it. Next up, the zone of interest.
Oh. Yikes. How do you approach this one?
Bit of a different vibe here. This is a recommend from me with, I guess, a caveat of if you don't mind a movie making you feel kind of ill and bad.
Yeah.
In a good way.
It's
it did
one
its
of those
job.
ones where I'd say yes, I'd recommend it in terms of like checking out the filmmaking style itself and how the film was put together, but it's not the kind of movie that was made to be enjoyed.
No, not in the same way that Argyle is. It's not a
It's not a sit down, tune out for like 2 hours.
Yeah. But I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I love Under the Skin, which is another Jonathan Glazer film. This gave me that same feeling of coming away, just sort of like not really knowing what to say. And genuinely, like, it sounds dramatic, but like there were moments in this film where I felt like a bit queasy. Just from like the thoughts of what was happening. And, you know, it's obviously like, what it cleverly does is it doesn't show you anything horrific like a lot of films about this time period do. It makes you kind of conjure that up yourself.
It's much more like sensory and like how it uses sound.
Yeah.
And there's such like a crazy disconnect from this movie. You have central figures in this movie that we're following the whole time, but you wouldn't say they're characters because these are you know that you're watching actors putting in a performance.
Yeah.
But those are real people.
Yeah.
That actually existed, and you wouldn't say like this is a character I can get behind.
No,
and that,
you wouldn't want to.
It's the way that it's like filmed as well. It's very kind of hidden camera almost. It's like
it is
watching,
that sort of fly on the wall thing. A lot of the shots are consistently in the same place when we go through the house.
Yeah.
You know, they're coming through all the corridors and stuff. Yeah, it is that sort of fly on the wall type thing.
It's like watching Big Brother live.
Yeah, like
in the most
real
horrific way
twisted
possible.
Big Brother, yeah. I did hear that the actors were apparently left in the rooms on their own while they were filming. They did just set up cameras in there and then I guess directed from like another house or outside or whatever. Just I guess to really just put them in that isolated position, and we're really kind of in there with them. It really does, like, it hits some of these characters at night. You can clearly see the conflict going on. There's like her mother visits, and there's a moment where she sort of looks out the window at kind of, you know, you can see the fire and the burning and the sounds and everything, and she's clearly like not feeling good, and then she disappears by the morning. It's stuff like that. You like just some of the most evil people, and then like these kids and family members that were also there. They thought they were on the right side of history, but obviously like some of them were not feeling too great.
It's interesting you mentioned that. There's such an interesting duality in the sense that like this family is kind of experiencing the same thing in that they have family members mysteriously disappearing in the night. They have a moment where like the kids are separated from their father. The father's sent to another location, so the family is split up, and none of these things are seen as anything more than a minor inconvenience, whereas on the other side of that wall, that was like the worst possible thing.
That's a really good point. Yeah, and I think that was the difference between how they saw themselves and how they saw the Jews they were killing. And I think a part that really hit home for me was when he's in that board meeting, when he gets moved and promoted, and they're just talking about when they started shipping all the Jews from Hungary, and just the way they talked about it was like they were talking about cattle or like you know, stuff like that. They did not see these people as human at all. Yeah, it was numbers, and that just that like stuff really did like hit home for me. Not that like the Holocaust hasn't already hit home for me, but you know what I mean. This isn't what made me realize that Holocaust.
Like in the moment.
Imagine the person like watching this be like, Oh God!
Finally realized.
Oh my God!
Oh my God,
This is
they
what
really
made them
did that.
realise.
Whoa! What the?
Holy
That's
shit!
not how I remember it at all.
Oh my God! Yeah, I wasn't going into this like I went into the Iron Claw.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was lines like that, and it was the way they were talked about, so matter of factly, is just just a terrifying concept, really.
I think it's towards the end, well, like the ending of the movie that really kind of changed how I was seeing it when it cuts quite abruptly to the cleaning crew throughout, and they're in the Auschwitz like Memorial Museum.
Yeah,
And I feel like there's this kind of message of not glamorizing, but like how in media and in film, the Holocaust has kind of been this thing that's been sensationalized.
yeah, that's the perfect word for it. Is sensationalized, and I think it's meant that we've become desensitized. We're using a lot of big words here.
Yeah.
That's what I got from it, is that they're just cleaning this. It's just their job every day to clean this thing. But behind that glass is like 1,000 pair of shoes of like children. It's the kind of thing where if you stop to think about it for too long, if you're cleaning that, you'd break down every single day.
Yeah.
So you have to be kind of desensitized to that stuff. And yeah, it just shows how we've it's just sort of become part of history and culture to kind of remember that and learn about it and stuff, I guess. Yeah, the further we get away from it, like, we need to remember how fucking horrific it was.
Yeah. Interesting take, interesting filmmaking style. So recommendation from both of us if you don't mind sitting and being very uncomfortable.
Yeah,
for a
if
couple
you
of
don't mind
hours.
sort of feeling like shit for a while. But that's what I like out of a movie. I like a movie to make me feel like shit.
I like a movie that just makes me have a bad time.
Yeah.
That's why I love Madam Web.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bad time.
That made me feel sick in a different way. Okay, so we're getting into the part of the show where we're talking about our solo ventures, some stuff we went to see without each other. Because believe it or not, we're not together all the time.
I won't even like try and say we're not together because I want people to question.
Yeah. I'm not saying we're not together
I'm not saying we're not together, but
All-
I'm not saying we are.
all the
I'm
time.
not saying
Like
we
I'm
are
talking
together.
physically. I'm not saying we are
Or
either.
physically, sometimes.
I'm going to talk about a film called Samsara, which made me feel wonderful. Actually, this is quite an experimental film. It's a film of two halves. One half is set in Laos, and the other half is set in Zanzibar. And it's a film about the Buddhist concept of reincarnation. It sort of opens and we follow, there's this old woman in this village where there's this Buddhist temple, and she's dying, and this boy is reading to her about how the process of reincarnation happens and what they think happens when you die and the process you have to go through, and what you see and what you have to do to pass on to another life. And then she passes away, and the film tells you to close your eyes. And for probably the next, I want to say 15 minutes maybe, it was kind of hard. Time became inconsequential, but you close your eyes and there's ambient sounds and there's flashing lights, and you're like reincarnated. You're going through this process with her, basically, is what it says is happening. The lights are designed in such a way that it does feel like you're going through tunnels at times. It speeds up, it slows down, there's thunder, lightning, all that sort of stuff, and it goes on for a while, and it sort of felt like a ride, kind of, but like one that you do yourself. You just have to sit there. And then it goes into the second half of the film, and it's explores sort of where she's been supposedly reincarnated. And it was just I didn't know a film could do that. It just shows that we can still do new stuff, outside of plots and everything like that. Physically, we can do new stuff with films. That felt like a different thing to
a
3D.
lot of innovation in it.
Yeah, it wasn't even 4D. It was in between somewhere. It was sensory. Yeah, it just sort of blew my mind a little bit. I know it's a simple concept, just being able to flash lights and
it's
stuff
weird
like that.
how they've landed on something new, but by really stripping everything back and taking it back to the most kind of base.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. It's you sort of have to do it yourself. The film has to trust you to go on this journey, and it said don't open your eyes again until there's silence. So you are sat there for ages.
Oh, I was hoping there was gonna be more text on the screen saying "Now open your eyes," but no one could see it.
Everyone just sat there for the rest of it. I mean, I opened my eyes and my wallet and phone were gone, and no one was in the cinema. But other than that, it was a great film.
Other than that, yeah, that maybe strips maybe a couple of stars off the IMDb rating.
Yeah, it was just a cool experience of a film. And again, I haven't really stopped thinking about it very much. And it's the kind of film, I want to see it again, but I don't think it would work outside of a cinema. You'd have to have a pretty big TV and properly turn off all your lights, and then maybe it would work.
Yeah.
But it was so much about the surround sound and how loud and bright it was that made it work. Like, I don't know if it would work just off a telly, but
I think maybe Man and Webb could have done with one of them.
yeah,
a
just
bit
in
at
the
beginning
middle.
saying, now close your eyes.
Close your eyes.
And then don't open them until you hear the end credits theme.
Yeah. But yeah, absolutely. I absolutely recommend this to anybody who has access to see this in a cinema, specifically.
Cool. So I think we can transition now from your bizarre experimental experience on reincarnation to a movie about ducks. Because I saw Migration, which I absolutely would not have seen if I wasn't getting it for free.
Did you close your eyes at any point in this?
Yeah, like at the end, it got like so emotional that I was weeping. So like the eyes were closed, but not like on purpose. It was like they were stinging with tears. I'm not going to talk about it for very long because there's not a lot to talk about. It's not a recommendation. Again, like I didn't hate it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just very like middling and by the numbers. It's an Illumination movie. You know what you're getting at this point. It's very standard.
Minions, Gru.
Minions, except they're ducks this time.
The
Gru,
moon,
but
maybe.
there's a duck. There's these other pigeons. Pigeons voiced by Awkwafina.
What, is it like an allegory for racism or something?
No,
Oh.
it's just a pigeon.
Oh.
Keegan-Michael Key does a Jamaican accent. He's a parrot.
Oh, I like that.
David Mitchell's in it. I don't know why.
Does he do a Jamaican accent?
No, he just
Okay,
does a regular
good.
David Mitchell
Good.
voice. Danny DeVito's like a old duck. He's like the uncle, and he still looks like he's balding. He doesn't do a Jamaican accent.
Oh. Did they make him look like Danny DeVito? Why is that a thing in animated films? Every time he voices a character, they just make him look like
They
Danny
make
DeVito.
him look like Danny DeVito. That is exactly what Danny DeVito, I think, would look like if he were an animated duck. Yeah, it's just a movie about ducks like going from one place to another, and there's some family drama, and then it gets resolved. It's another one of those movies where everything just kind of instantly gets resolved, and then the credits hit.
Sounds great. Sounds really
I'd
satisfying.
Watch it again.
Cool.
It's very easy. It's very easy to watch.
How long was it?
Probably like an hour and a half, if
Easy.
that.
Perfect length.
Perfect length. Just sit down. Here's a movie about ducks.
Problems are solved. Hour and a half, in and out.
Maybe the issue is that I wasn't the target audience, because I think kids will enjoy it.
Who else was in the cinema when you were watching this?
A lot of families. A lot of families. There's a lot of families.
Were they kind of looking at you like,
Well, no, because I think I was the first one in.
all right, so you could be like, sort
I
of,
was sat kind of near the back, so I was good.
you were there with like sunglasses and cap, like,
I just kind of. It's very funny the fact that like if anyone had seen what I did afterwards, because I went out and then straight into like a horror movie.
yeah,
But yeah, kids will probably enjoy it.
great.
That's all I can say. That's the one benefit. Like kids don't know what makes a good movie. They'll sit down and want to watch that and be like, yeah, that was good. I really liked that. They have like no memory when it comes to film. They don't remember films.
They'd probably enjoy Man Web.
Whatever the most recent film they watch is their favorite.
That's the favorite.
That's their
Absolutely.
favorite.
Next up is Ripples. Yeah, so this film, it opens in the aftermath of the Fukushima reactor that exploded because of the 2011 earthquake. I definitely didn't just Google that. It follows this like family. It's a mother and a father and a son, and the father is so scared of the radiation in the water and stuff, he just ups and leaves one day. And then we cut to years later, and this woman is just living a life on her own. Her son's moved out and everything, and she's sort of joined this like cult that's to do with clean water, and they all drink like bottled water called Green Life water, and it's like a religious cult, and they're like indoctrinating people into it, and it's sort of a pyramid scheme at the same time. And it's really funny. It's like it's a comedy, but it's got such a like dry sense of humor to it. A lot of the characters play it quite straight, and yeah, I mean, there's not too much to say about it. I enjoyed it. It didn't sort of blow me away or anything. It's called Ripples because, like, you know, it's about how things can affect everything. One little thing can affect every part of your life.
The butterfly effect. Kind
Yeah,
of
exactly.
feel.
Yeah. There's some cool shots in it where they're having an argument or something, but it cuts to them standing on like a huge ripple thing. It's very sort of odd and surreal for a few seconds, and it'll cut back, and it's as if she's sort of imagining herself on this water ripple thing. But a pretty fair recommend, I think, if you just want a nice sort of light comedy that's got kind of some darker undertones to it.
A little chuckle
Yes.
for your buckle.
Don't say that again.
That should be a tagline for every comedy movie ever.
A chuckle for your buckle.
So next up, I'll talk about the other movie I saw this month. It's called Baghead, which was the horror movie I was referring to just a little bit ago. Straight up, not recommended. And this is out of it. It's bad. This is a bad movie. The two worst movies I've seen so far this year have both been the horrors I've seen. because horror is very, very easy to get wrong.
Yeah.
When you get it right, it's great, but it's there's so much like dregs to wade through in the horror genre to find like the good stuff. Marginally better than Night Swim, only on the grounds that the premise isn't as silly, but still like very by the numbers, and again has like a hook in it that they put in that they don't capitalize on, and that's the most frustrating thing. So this movie is kind of about this young girl who at the beginning, her dad passes away and she's like pretty estranged from her father. She's kind of been like doing her own thing. She comes into possession of the pub that he owned, and in the basement of this pub there's a weird creature, a weird demon creature lurking in there. And if you give an item that belongs to someone who died to that creature, they can temporarily turn into them to allow you to like speak to the departed in order to get closure or, you know, get key information or something like that. But you can only do it for 2 minutes. It's the rule. You can only do it for 2 minutes.
Whoa.
And then the creature takes over. She's very like malicious and malevolent with some of the things she says.
This is sounding familiar.
Well, in the guise of this person. Yeah, very similar to
Talk to Me.
Me.
Yeah.
Didn't have the cool aspect of Talk to Me where it was like kind of like an allegory for drug usage and like self-destructive behavior. It was very straight up. This is an evil monster.
Yeah, no metaphors here.
Which is a shame because later on in the film they get to the sequence you have to have in there. It's like the obligatory sequence where we explain what this thing is and where it came from.
Exposition.
Big exposition dump where it turns out back like way in the past, this group of people found a woman who could like commune with the deceased, and they ended up like exploiting and taking advantage of it for their own benefit until eventually she was like, no, like I'm not doing this anymore, and then they burn her. But they multiple times they use like the word exploit as in like they're exploiting this power for their own benefit. And it's like, this movie could have been like so much better if it had been a metaphor for like the exploitation of women in our society, like how they're basically like fucked over constantly on like the part of men. Because I think they say like it's a group of men that finds this woman and like uses their gifts for their own benefit. If they had gone more into that, it would have been somewhat interesting, but they don't. They just throw everything out the window for a haha got you moment at the end, where it's like they try and do like a twist where it's like, oh, now you didn't pay attention to the rules and now the creatures escaped and like ultimate evil is unleashed. But they never really explained the rules to the fullest extent, so there's no sense of gratification in the sense that it's like when you're watching it you can't go, oh, I paid attention, I recognize that like he broke the rules and now like he deserves this, because they never really explain what the rules are. It's just, you can only talk for 2 minutes and also don't let her out of the basement because she's evil, I guess. That's all you get.
That's it.
The most frustrating part of this movie was that there were just actors in it that I recognized and could not place for the whole thing.
Oh, I thought you were going to stop there.
No,
I don't want any actors I recognize.
That really pissed me off. No, like literally the one time I screamed watching this movie was coming out of the cinema, googling the main character, being like, "That's Ciri from The Witcher." I knew that is. And the dad was also played by a guy who was in Ozark, so I recognized him as well. But other than that,
and at that point, all the families,
all the families
who had
seen me in Migration, who had also come and watched Baghead with their kids.
Come on, kids. Stay away.
He's having a breakdown. I think he's got to work out his own issues. Come on, let's go home and have some let's go home and have hot dog dinner.
Ozark the Witcher.
No, come on, we're going home. We're having hot dog dinner.
Ducks.
Come on,
Quack.
come on, kids. Yeah, sucks.
Cool. Bad head, more like.
That's what they should have called it. We should have just kept the bag on.
Should have kept the bag on.
I should have took a bag in there, put it on
my own head and suffocated myself.
Would have had more fun. Would have had more fun. And would have had a more gratifying ending.
The final film I want to talk about is called 658 Kilometers, Yoko's Journey.
That's a mouthful. Already,
it is a mouthful. Nothing to do with Yoko Ono.
Nothing to do with Yokozuna.
Nothing to do with egg yolk at any point either. This is a road trip movie, basically, but a lot more emotional than the usual buddy comedy road trip movie.
Is there an animated sidekick?
There's no animated sidekick, I'm afraid, and no James Marsden either.
Oh, fuck.
This is another Japanese film, funnily enough. It's about Yoko, and she has been separated from her family for a long time, like 20 odd years or something. By choice, she's sort of left. She didn't get on with her dad, and she's kind of a bit of a hermit. She works from home, she doesn't really leave the house, doesn't have any friends, until her cousin and his family show up at the door, and they let her know that her dad is dead. And so...
Sensing a theme here.
Yeah. They now have to take her to the other side of the country to the funeral. And her phone's broken, and she ends up getting separated from them at a service station. And so she has to now hitchhike across Japan, basically. It sort of explores throughout her physical journey. She goes on kind of a metaphorical journey as she comes more and more out of her shell, as she comes more and more to terms with what her dad meant to her and what their relationship with each other meant and why she hasn't wanted to see him in so long. Because at the beginning, she's barely speaking to the people she's driving with. They're trying to get her to converse and stuff, and they're just sort of talking and talking. She's like, yeah. And then by the end, she just straight up does a monologue to this guy that's driving. And that's the moment where we're sort of given context for why she feels this way, and why she is the way she is and why she ran away, and it's sort of all revealed in that moment. But the build up to it is so well done, and the way she slowly comes out of her shell, the more people she meets, the more people she interacts with, the further she gets towards this end point goal, which is her dad's funeral, which is physically having to come to terms with the death of her dad. And so on the way, she has to emotionally come to terms with that as well. And it was just, incredibly well done. There's some funny moments in this. There's some really harrowing moments. There is a pretty dark moment where she gets sexually assaulted by one of the people that picks her up. And that was like one of the moments in this where I was like, oh fuck, this is like fucking real. It's a real story.
It gets heavy right quick.
Yeah. And it manages to balance that well. It balances the levity with the darkness. And it's sort of that classic road trip thing of lots of stuff happens along the way, and because you're constantly in different environments and you're constantly meeting new characters, but it does it in such a sort of grounded way, and each one makes sense. Yeah, it's just really cool. Well paced, and a really satisfying ending, and a beautiful performance.
It's just everything. It's everything you wanted.
Everything you want in a film. Yes, absolutely, I recommend. Absolutely.
Good stuff.
Well, I suppose that brings us to the end of the February 2024 edition of The Monthly Thing.
Yeah, I think we covered everything pretty extensively.
Covered everything, unless there's anything else you wanted to bring up.
I mean, speaking of road trip movies, you know what I watched this month?
What?
A goofy movie. Psych, bitch, I lied. Number one movie, February 2024. A goofy movie. Bringing it back. We're bringing it back. It's 2024. We're bringing it back. A goofy movie. There it is. Right there. There it is. A goofy movie.
Why is it over my face?
Put it there. I don't want to see nothing else but a goofy movie. Right there.
Stop putting the goofy movie in front of my face.
There it is. You can't escape it. You can't escape it.
Thank you for watching HAZMAT, reviewing the films they saw in February 2024.
If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see us do more stuff like this in the future, you can support the channel by leaving a like or a comment. You can hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell. That way you'll be alerted to our more recent uploads. And as always, all of our socials will be listed down in the description.
And join us next time where I go on a road trip with some ducks.
And I'm going to go on a road trip with someone else. Maybe Baghead.
Oh, Baghead.
Badhead.
Badhead.
Getting Badhead
Getting
from
some
Baghead.
bad roadhead.
Baghead can't give Badhead because you got a bag on her head.
Oh, this is just a mess. Put Goofy Movie back
Put
on
a
the
Goofy.
screen. Put Goofy Movie back
Take
on
this.
the screen.
Take this all off. Big PNG. A Goofy movie.
Bye.